Game number 1, it's the semifinals. The winner of this obviously moves on to the grand finals. And what they're playing for tonight is $100 winner take all. But also a little bit of ESL points sprinkled into the mix as well. Regardless, I'm very excited to see which of these two players take it home. Spawning here to the bottom left, kicking things off. He's been held up in Canada, but he's had a great roommate to be in quarantine with. It's TLO. And of course, I'm shamelessly making that shout out because I see Whiff in the chat. Hi, Whiff! Spawning here to the top right. That's his wife, by the way. To the top right, the red Protoss, the European Goblin. Goblin actually really impressing recently as he played in our big $1,000 Raid Shadow Legends tournament. And oh, TLO. Give me a second to hype up Goblin, will you? Because Goblin took first place in the group over B, Geralt, and Braddock. Goblin's actually looking pretty fantastic recently, and I'm saying recently as of 3 days ago when we cast that group. So I've got some high hopes for him and some aspirations to tonight's cup, but TLO, as you can see, is up to no good. And Goblin, with a very precise scout, confirms that. He just dips to the edge of the cliff and sees the hatchery. It's a rich gas geyser too, so this might not be for Starglings and spine crawlers, but more so for roaches and ravagers. Of course, that's still quite down the line. I think what prompted this too is he saw no natural base. So questions immediately went like which, where, and how. And this is the closest base you could check. I like this for a couple of different reasons. One, I don't think I actually classify TLO as that cheesy of a player, right? He's a very good player. He does a lot of things very well in this game. And I'm not saying he can't cheese, but it's definitely not the first thing that comes to mind. You put someone like Bly in there. Yeah, we talk about this proxy hatchery all the time. So this is definitely a little bit odd to see, and we'll see how this gets handled by Goblin. He does send a Zealot down really quick, and another one's on the way. In fact, getting Chrono boosted out because he wants to deal with this sooner rather than later. But regrettably, he can't really do that. If he dives in for the hatchery, it takes so long to kill. He could deny gas mining for a bit, which would be incredibly beneficial because this is a rich Vespene geyser after all. But when a queen spawns and a couple Zerglings come out, you see some kiting. I'm sure these Zealots will not go down too easily. Ooh, TLO may have abandoned ship on the mining for a bit. Obviously, you don't want to fight Zealots with drones. And Zerglings don't necessarily do a lot better. But getting back to that gas, first couple roaches are on the way. One spawns here. Holds the Zealots into the corner. Now their back's against the wall. It means they're going to be a lot harder to kill for TLO. He can't get that surround, but he does deal with the Zealots, which are admittedly probably a bigger problem right now than they will be later. So getting rid of them so he can get back to mining, very important. But now that Stalker's just going to sit up on the high ground and, well, should be able to sit up on the high ground and deny mining. I'm actually a little curious why it's not. All right, cutting with the Stalkers on creep is not favorable. We got Zergling speed coming out, more roaches. I'm sure units will rally across the map as necessary. It's kind of important where TLO builds his units, by the way. I should highlight that because if he builds roaches on the other side of the map, it will take forever to get here. But if he builds roaches in the proxy and lings on the other side of the map, then the speed gap will be, well, gapped, bridged. So far, the defense has been pretty solid out of Goblin. He's getting some good aggression in with the Stalkers without risking too much. He's getting some shield batteries up because he knows this is going to be committed. TLO's not doing this so he can play a full macro game. He's doing this because he wants to end this before this gets to a full macro game. So here we go with the committed attack. Catches him out by the open before he gets to the shield batteries. Sadly, Goblin doesn't have the army to really fight that head on just yet. But, excuse me, TLO. But Goblin's armies, I think out in the open, actually exposed, Zerglings with a full surround can do really well. But speed's still about another 20-ish seconds out. Base Straight TV, did you see that Roddy 2 out Neeb? Yeah, I tweeted about it. It's the first thing I saw when I opened up the bracket today. I was like, wait a minute, what? This is, of course, I got on a little bit late. That was kind of cool to see. Michelangelo says, I love Goblin, but I think I love TLO more. That's fair. TLO is really awesome. This kind of scrappy fight, though, certainly isn't easy to handle for either side of this. Ravagers land into the Corrosive Bile. As Zerglings get these hits on the Stalkers, they are getting low, but they fall back to the shield batteries. Only the first wave of shield batteries on the front lines are getting a bit weak here. It'd be really nice if some creep was getting spread, but of course for TLO he has to wait a bit. He doesn't really have the energy to frivolously just throw down a bunch of tumors that are going to get picked off by the Stalkers. In fact, transfuses are going to be super, super valuable, and that's what he's been burning through a lot of this. But at the end of the day, they're both on one base. And even though Goblin's got 23 workers, yeah, it's not like he's got significantly better income than TLO. Losing the extractor is unfortunate, and that puts a big pause in his gas. In fact, he's going to have to possibly take other gas if he's not careful. Wait a minute. Did I miss... I'm going to have to go back and look at that in the replay. So I think I just saw something a little fucky, but maybe I was just not paying attention properly. Okay, anyways, look. Goes back to building the gas geyser. No, it is! Okay, I thought this was a bug! This counts as 2 extractors being built right now for some reason. And I don't know if this is just because it's a rich geyser, so it stacks up. Look at that. This happened. I thought he was taking gas at home. This is a bug. This is a UI bug. Someone clip this so I can send it to Ollie later, please. Because it should not be reading a rich geyser as 2 extractors. He's not building 2 extractors. That messed with me really badly just now. An interesting bug though, because I guess it kind of makes sense. It's stacked up, so it's like the value of 2 extractors. Anyways, not super important. Force fields are a problem. You can see force fields cut off the Ravagers. Corrosive Biles can help deal with that, but there's a lot of sentries, a lot of shield batteries. TLO's whittling away on the outside of this. When there's no shield batteries in range, great, he gets kills. But the second Goblin falls back to these massive shield batteries, healed up immediately. All that damage gone. Now, most of the sentries are out of juice. This is where we might see TLO start taking some power. There's still the shield batteries, excuse me. There's still the shield batteries to deal with. The sentries are empty. No more force fields, no guardian shields. It's just stalkers and healing now, which isn't necessarily better, but it's better than stalkers, healing, and sentries. That's for sure. That couple Zerglings helped grab one of those kills. That was really nice to see. TLO's starting to really run out of steam, though. I'm worried. I'm really worried for TLO. I don't think the disruption to the gas was that devastating, but it's going to happen again. Oh, say goodnight times, if I read that name correctly. Thank you for signing up. Sorry, I barely caught that. I hope you enjoyed the tutorial. It's quick, right? It's really nice, really simple. And once you're done with it, if you guys want to keep playing, there is 3 different base trade TV clans you can join, or you just uninstall it. Whichever is your flavor. It doesn't matter. All the sponsors want is for you guys to at least play the tutorial, to try out their game for free, right? That's how it works. So once you're done, if you're satisfied, cool. If you're not, uninstall it. Either way, you've already successfully helped us get closer and closer to our goal. By the way, I know a lot of people did this for Pig and Wardy and others. It was confirmed by them at this point that if you use a different email, you can absolutely, and don't tell them I told you, you can use a bogus email. It doesn't actually check. But if you sign up with another account, it will count for us towards our goals too. So if you're just that extra special person, you're like, I already helped these other streamers. Sorry, Rifkin. No, you can still do it. True Legends, thank you very much for signing up and playing. Ravager's looking for a couple more corrosive biles. Now, knocking down the shield batteries is nice, but unfortunately, one type of healing gets replaced by another, and while the shield battery might disappear, there's going to be Immortals out with their barriers and that instant health. TLO has no inclination of taking another real base. Mining off of this really isn't an option. Frankly, we're just kind of in Field's bad man territory. As, even though TLO has an army supply lead, the amount of shield batteries makes up for that greatly. Although, hold the phone, he manages to run it from the backside, and this army is now caught out away from the shield batteries. TLO's a genius! Okay, I really want to cover that in depth. So, TLO hid most of his Zerglings up here at the top right. Goblin may have fixated, focused, or misunderstood where the rest of the army was, but the point is he saw this army looking exposed, so he felt comfortable pushing a little bit. Not a lot, just a little bit away from the shield batteries, right? A little bit out of the safety zone. But that little bit was enough to catch him and push him into a recall. Just let TLO get some confirmed kills. Now he's draining the rest of the energy of the shield batteries. Well, I can't say that this is necessarily good for TLO yet. This is looking a lot better now than it was 30 seconds ago. That's for damn sure. Exasperated, we take a look at the army size. And you can see TLO keeps getting brought back to even. Both players keep equalizing, frankly. Nobody's really winning the battle. The only thing that's winning right now is Goblin's economy, because TLO is mining out of the main base, and there's nowhere else for him to go. Goblin did take a natural base, so this means the longer this goes, the higher chance Goblin wins this through an attrition game versus TLO. TLO could try and mine off of this base, but it's really unreliable and unlikely to happen. He doesn't have the money to spare because he can't build another hatchery. There's no 300 minerals for him to work with. Every single mineral needs to be put into army units, and he knows that too. Chasing into the warp prism's a little risky and a little bit greedy, frankly, but it takes the immortal out of the fight. Really, waiting between corrosive bile cooldowns, it's a tough choice because TLO would love to just nuke down these shield batteries, but if he does, then he doesn't have anything to break the force fields. So he's been pretty conservative about this, using some on the army, some on the shield batteries, but it always just feels like he barely doesn't have enough. 10, almost 11 minutes in from this proxy attack, I thought this would be over, but this should tell you guys one thing, and that's these two players are well matched, because lesser players either on the Protoss or the Zerg side would have died 5 minutes ago. Is there no more stream captain? No, we got a stream captain battle. It's in the back. We're actually on the boss level right now. Got plenty of time to join in. Okay, next round of the attack, TLO commences. Force fields go down on the ramp immediately, but this allows him to use the corrosive biles early on to free his units. Problem is, there's more force fields where that came from, and that's going to be just enough to tip him over the edge. As you can see here on the minimap, actually, TLO only has like 3 mineral patches left. GG. GG. Game 1 goes to Goblin. We're getting into game number 2. Spawning here to the top left, it's the blue Protoss player, TLO, playing from Canada and representing Germany all at the same time. Down 1, however, let's pray for the bounce back, because his opponent is looking pretty solid today and recently. So in the bottom right, it's the red Protoss, Goblin, leading 1-0. And thank you, Wimble Bimbo. This is a very fun name to say, actually. In the least actual about money way possible, but just in terms of saying your name, I hope you resub every month so I have an excuse to say Wimble Bimbo. Thank you for this up, man. For Goblin, though, I want to kind of go back. We didn't get time to super hype him up, and I'm not going to like bore you to death here with stats, but Goblin won our 2v2 tournament with Uthermal. Goblin won his group for the Raid Shadow Legends tournament. Like, just everything Goblin has played recently on this channel, he's actually had really good success with. And I know he's not really considered a top tier European by many, but we've really liked Goblin for a while. And I do feel for sure he's better than he probably even gives himself credit for. I'm hoping for big things. It'd be nice to see him win this cup. It'd be nice to see him take some good placements in big events, but Goblin's still got a little bit of work to go. I'm glad to see the recent success though. It's a really good indicator that he's improved a lot over the last year. It's interesting to see that Riff has more contributions. Oh, yeah, well, yeah, here's the thing, right? This is where the money is. If people sign up and play, that's how we get the big money to do more tournaments and stuff. The raid contributions or whatever, the ones for people who purchase stuff in game, this is extra hype. Like if you guys, if 5 people buy something, we get to gift out like 10 skins and stream raiders or 10 gifted subs, yada, yada, yada. This is fun extra stuff. And if you guys are buying stuff, cool. I hope you actually enjoy it. I hope you actually play the game and have a good time. You don't have to, but if you do, I hope you do. Boy, that sounded so stupid. Let me rephrase that. If you purchase something in game, I hope sincerely you're getting your dollar value worth, because I'm kind of a sucker for gacha games. I really like things that just like give a chance to summon something really fucking cool, and then like you don't, and it feels worse, so it makes you angry, and you go buy another one that you summon again, and you still don't get it. The third time's the charm. You finally get that waifu, and you're like, yes, and then you realize it wasn't worth it. I hope you guys don't fall into that situation, because I have fallen into that situation many, many times playing these freaking games. Interesting question. Faked asks, been a StarCraft player on and off since 2010. Hey, shout out, dude. I'm currently overwhelmed. I was overwhelmed by Heart of the Swarm, speed, and gameplay and macro. Any tips on getting back in the game? Well, it's Legacy of the Void, first off, so you don't gotta worry about that. But secondly, honestly, the game is, I think, a lot more friendly. Like the increased worker count at the start really helped. I think a lot of people play catch up and not have to worry about even mineral split, micro, and I don't think you're gonna get great at this game if you can't handle the speed, but I can tell you for surezies the pacing of the game now feels better than it did in the past, for sure. So my best advice, honestly, just get on and play. You're never gonna get used to it if you don't just practice a little bit. You're on your phone tonight. Oh, it's all good, man. Okay, so getting back to this, Blink on the way and getting chronoed out. Goblin's really good with Stalkers, and he's particularly good with micros, so Stalkers make a lot of sense, but Stalkers can't really do as much as they can to Zerg as they can versus Terran. Like, you'll watch so many PvT games where Terran player just gets destroyed by Blink timings in the early game. That's not going to happen here. TLO, honestly, this is more of like a mechanic, a tool, if you will, than necessarily a strategy that's going to lead to a big fatty all-in. I mean, even the extra gateways coming in, if Goblin goes across the map and he wants to work, it's like, what, 8 gateways or something he's going to have? 2, well, we'll gotta wait for them to finish up. That's just going to be stupid to read, but yeah, about 5, 6, 7. 2 base economy isn't going to really support this for very long. So his first attack is going to be very powerful. Make no mistake. There's going to be a huge warp in presence of Stalkers. But he can't sustain this for too long. So TLO is going to get smacked in the face right off the bat. No question about it. But I think the sustain here favors TLO, actually. So if he can just hold this off, Defender's advantage should be enough. I say this very tentatively, though, because we do know it's more about micro than necessarily units and numbers on the field. But TLO has a lot of Zerglings. And Stalkers are going to blink out of the surround the Zerglings provide, but that does mean they're still going to take the damage. Queen's back away too. TLO's trying not to reveal his numbers. He really... Oh, he wants Goblin to overcommit onto the creep. That's so clever. Now when he blinks away, he's still on the creep, so TLO chases. This little choke will favor Goblin a bit, but even with the micro, you can see TLO's just tearing right through it. Roaches and Lings are so numerous, and Goblin's attack is pushed off. This is why I was a little surprised to see Blink be this kind of attack. And I think if there's no third base, well, first off, TLO, I don't know what this is blocking out, but if there's no third base, then this was just a bad move from Goblin. He wanted to end the game too soon. We're not there yet, of course. Crystal Ball's gonna help a ton. It's gonna kind of like be a Zerg force field in a way. You can't really push through a Crystal Ball. You're gonna take 60 damage. It's gonna feel really bad. I do love the wraparound from the Zerglings, though. This choke is TLO's greatest enemy at the moment. Actually, funny enough, that choke is more threatening than the just pure Stalker count being what it is, because TLO has numbers to deal with. He catches so many. He's running ahead. Oh man, this is so good. Okay, so the guy earlier who asked some tips on how to play the game, let me lay this one out for you, right? If TLO had just A moved, like F2 A moved there, he wouldn't have caught even half the Stalkers. He dived ahead with the Zerglings with a move command, and by getting this around, he kept the Stalkers in place just long enough for everything to get that extra hit in. That's why we're seeing units die, and that's why TLO's only losing little bits of Zerglings and not huge Roach Ravagers. Well, now it's Ravagers, I say that, but point is, really cool subtle moves like that are really what make Zerg players good. I know there's a lot of like, oh my god, Zerg's overpowered, can we get some fucking nerfs out here? And I'm with you. A lot of the time, I'm actually with you guys, like, right? But when it comes down to it, really good players can't be nerfed. Really good players are gonna make amazing decisions and always make the right decisions, and cool moves like that are gonna be seen, even albeit subtle. And it's all these little things that add up that make TLO better than the rest. But once again, another fight on this choke with Stalkers. Warp Person comes back. TLO this time, he's up 20-something army supply. Still just a lot of Stalkers to fight against. This, by the way, there's no question this is all in at this point. So for Goblin, this is not trading. Like, trading is not enough. TLO's got more money while this goes on. Significantly more money. Goblin playing very cost efficiently in comparison to TLO, but the longer this goes, this definitely favors TLO. I think the only regret I see is that he doesn't have this Overlord properly blocking the base. If he were to block out Goblin's third, this would be devastating, because Goblin right now is going to try and take a third, and looks like he's going to try and pivot out of this. Now, the beauty of Blink Stalkers is they do have viability to pair up with late game units to make a late game composition. So this pivot is totally doable, but it shouldn't have been, because this third base is the only reason he's able to try and do that. But this is part of why you saw me humming and hawing about calling this an all-in earlier, and why I kind of winced at the gateway count, because it's really not that simple. This third base, it's kind of result based. I think the intention was all in. The intention was kill TLO and win the game, but because that's not how it played out, he's trying to play out of it now. So less all in that regard. But look, definitions really don't matter. All that matters is really what actions they're taking in the game right now. And this third base is a good action. TLO has 3 bases. Now he's recently taken a 4th. It's a little banged up, of course, but he continues to just make a ton of units. Overwhelming with roaches is difficult to do against Stalkers. It's a lot easier to do versus like adepts and things, but still though, the Stalker count, the blinking away, the cost efficiency from this out of Goblin, it's really reflecting the resources lost. but he's also gained hardly any ground through this. Like the most damage he did was half the hatchery. That's it. Like he didn't really slaughter drones. He didn't cut down the army supply. And now TLO's feeling the freedom to get across the field. And this time, Choke might work on his advantage because Goblin has to push into him instead of vice versa. Yeah, TLO could just disengage, hit up the ramp. This third base, very vulnerable. Reinforcements may come from the south, and TLO's caught in a little bit of a sandwich. But it's not one of them good Subway sandwiches. This is like one of them gas station sandwiches where the meat's too much on one side, so the bread gets really soggy on the other. And TLO, BLT, BRB, soon to be GG. Actually, TLO's running out of steam really badly. I didn't realize how good the blank stalkers were till just this moment. Holy crap. No, he did segment workers. This is very important. TLO did this. He lost the army fight pretty badly. We can see that here clear as day. But he segmented off 3 or 4 roaches and they killed 11 probes. So even though Goblin's on 3 bases, remember, his main's halfway mined out at this point. He doesn't actually have really great money to work with, income. That being said, though, as proven through that fight, he has a pretty strong army. And as this goes for the retaliatory attack, TLO is also going to find himself in an awkward situation where he also will have some limited money to work with. The plus side is he's had more money to work with, so he's not going to be in dire straits from losing his 4th base. But this more or less equalizes the probe damage done. So good snipe there. No chance for TLO to take an advantage yet. He continues to build more roaches and more ravagers. +2 weapons has been started, but oh man. I think one thing I'd love to see that you can't really afford to squeeze out, fungal growths. You want to stop stalkers from blinking? Hit them with a fungal growth. You can't be picked up in a warp prism and they can't blink while they got fungal on them. So much of this army is so close to dead. Like this looks like a really good salad when you consider the health bars. Just a lot of good fruits and colors in them, but regrettably, that also means that if anytime their shields break, these units are probably going to die too, making blink micro even more difficult for Goblin because it means he either has to blink earlier and lose out on DPS or blink too late and lose the unit entirely. Neither of which are preferable for him. And it would appear there's going to be some zealots heading to the main base shortly from that warp prism. TLO trying to get a surround here in the middle of the map, but the blink catches these units, so instead of a surround, he gets surrounded. With his army cut in half like this is not the strength to fight. And let's not forget, while this goes on, Goblin's heading into the main base as we speak with said warp prism. Oh, no, it didn't. That's the observer. I was deceived by the mini-map. Also, I acknowledge the Stream Raider battle is ready to go, guys. I love your faces. We'll get it going after this game's done. I don't want to miss a second of this. Extended thermal lens is an interesting choice, actually. I don't know that Colossus are the answer here. I think just raw numbers will be, but either way, I mean, it's not like it's gonna hurt. He's got a lot of stalkers to sit in front of that. It's not like TLO can dive on top of the Colossus. Corrosive Biles to run away, maybe. That'll force a blink, and I think that's what he's trying to avoid. Corrosive Biles gonna land. Goblin just stands his ground, looks like he doesn't care. Colossus does end up getting focused. Ends up being a big meat shield, although TLO, I guess, doesn't have the damage for it. Oh, this is disheartening, guys. Like, TLO's got 1-1. He's got a lot of good things going for him. Oh, it's on Hive Tech? When the hell did he get on Hive Tech? So Vipers start coming into the mix. And Blinding Clouds are not terrible an idea. Actually, I really like the idea of Blinding Clouds, but I fear he gave away too much of the army, because now, if Goblin counterattacks, there's nothing to really benefit from said Blinding Cloud. Is this Rifkin sponsored by Subway? I wish, dude. If there was one sponsorship, like anyone who sponsors this channel has to pay me money. I don't take like handouts anymore, right? But Subway, if they're just like, yo, we'll give you like a free footlong a week, just mention us on stream, I'm fucking there, dude. I love Subway so much, and those who've been watching me for years know that. So no, Rifkin's not sponsored by Subway. Rifkin just recognizes what the best sandwich game in town is, okay? Honestly, the Subway's changed. Their breads are different now, and it makes me sad. I miss some of the old school ones they had, but I guess it does depend on location as well. I know that in America, they have very different sandwich options too. I got a Philly cheesesteak in California I'll never forget, because they're not available in Canada. At least not in BC. Oh, this attack to the main is that warp prism. Patiently waiting so long to get up here. The Zealots will be dealt with by the Roaches. 4th base was shot down again. And I talked earlier about the game of attrition, but now it's kind of role reversed, and TLO is the one who may eventually starve out of this game, because he's not playing cost efficiently enough to trade out with Goblin evenly, and Goblin is matching him on money. In fact, I imagine prior to this little attack, he was getting, yeah, he was actually literally equalizing it, and then TLO hits, and when the probe is pulled, he falls a little bit behind again. Yeah, TLO actually has to long distance mine a bit, which is not preferable by any means, but necessary. So here's where the Vipers get really interesting to me. I mean, a caster unit of some variety, whether it's an Infestor or a Viper, was going to be needed to make these roaches viable in the late game. These are early game units, they're not meant to be late game units, but when you compare them up with things like a Blinding Cloud or Abducts, they become a lot more powerful. But TLO also has his own problems now, with Goblin getting his own caster units. So, Templar in play, I mean, there's going to be feedbacks hitting those Vipers, possibly nullifying their ability to put Blinding Clouds down. But more notably, with TLO just having so many units, any storm is just going to likely hit 5 or more targets. That's just a fact, because they're all so big and lumped up together. Feedback, looking for the feedbacks. Gets 2 of the feedbacks, not before some of the ducks go off, though. Wastes another one, and between Blinding Clouds and storms, this forces a big disengage, but awkward as it is, remember guys, TLO's the one who's down in the series. Oh, fucking beautiful. He just predicted the observer pathing so he could throw down 1 corrosive ball and kill it. That blinds Goblin a little bit. Now there's more observers, so he's not blinded, but that was a sweet move. Doesn't pull it off twice though. Well, this game has gone the distance from what was a Blink Stalker all-in that arguably failed to a crazy macro game where both players have basically spent 15 minutes trying to take a 4th base, okay? This is not the game I expected, but this is the game I definitely wanted without knowing it. Goblin, I think one of his greatest disadvantages to this point has been a severe lack of upgrades. Ooh! Ooh, Goblin! I guess I have to notice you now. I hereby... Wait.
I hereby acknowledge and notice Goblin. Thank you for the 10 gifted subs.
Just in time for the attack. Now, force fields aren't here, but who needs them? Storms work just as good. Nobody wants to fight through those storms. TLO pushing right on through, trying to break the top side. Stalkers blinking to the left side. That Calip's going down soon, but so is TLO's army. Both players are dissipating at a very rapid rate. This Abduct, I don't know what that was meant to accomplish, but as the Immortals go down, so do the Roaches, and you have to keep in mind for TLO, it's so much cheaper for him to replace this army than it is for Goblin. So, I can't say anyone definitively wins this battle. I gotta turn this off. I'm sorry. I love you, Gildan. I'll read those out in a second. But TLO just knocked down all the big high-tech units out of Goblin. And a really big part of why he could do that was because he had 2-2 on his side, while Goblin had 0-0. These Stalkers hitting like a wet noodle. Well, no, that's not true. But they're hitting a lot less than they should. That's for sure. The Immortals going down, I think, we're going to be the most difficult thing to remove from play. And TLO needs to defend this 4th base. I talked about the money game earlier. This is essential. This base, in my opinion, more important than this base. In fact, up here, there's like Evo chambers that may or may not be used. The spawning pool hasn't been relevant in this pretty much whole game other than building queens. Transfusing this to save few to the Zealots would be nice, but I don't think he needs to. Losing the spawning pool is kind of one of those acceptable things, but this is a big deal. This is maybe the biggest deal. TLO goes for the commit to try and get the Nexus. If he kills this Nexus, this really, really cuts Goblin's income down significantly. He'll trade out for several Stalkers on the way out too. Look at the focus fire is one-shotting these Stalkers. He can't fight directly because of the Immortal. That's why he has to kite and hit and run. And for TLO, that was a huge move. Was it big enough to win the game? We'll find out. But one thing's for sure, Goblin's gonna have to replace this Nexus ASAP because his money game was finally getting into the red. We were finally seeing some income for Goblin on his income graph, and then TLO knocks it all down while maintaining his own 4th base. Why is Goblin not upgrading? Because there's been so much commitment to army units, man. Like this has been kind of that typical arms race. As TLO went from Roaches and Ravagers, Goblin had to find a way to get past that. Blank Stalkers weren't just gonna cut it. I agree with everybody watching who's probably frustrated. Like, I wish Goblin had upgrades, and he's finally getting +1 as we speak. But the priority for sure, it makes more sense to, rather than arm 15 Stalkers with +1, get 2 or 3 Immortals in your army. There's also been a lot of focus on this Warp Prism doing harassment, and I don't think this has actually killed enough to be worth it. At least, I know from what we've caught, but there's also units that were warped in that we didn't see. Minimum 10 Zealots have been warped in into the main base. They killed a spawning pool and 12 drones. Realistically, Goblin has been doing a lot of damage this game, but it's been a lot of army trading, not necessarily a lot of worker trading. In fact, If we check the overall workers killed, it's just not that much for a 20-minute game. Not that much for how much money's been mined this game. This is bold and very brave, by the way. I don't know that sucking life, getting a good suck off of the most important base you have is a good idea, but his hatchery's been brought down to half, and I suppose for TLO, if he's pushing across the field and Goblin's defending, then he won't have the freedom to kill this very weakened up base. But this income is everything for TLO. This is his big advantage. And now, with the 19-minute push, roaches distract the army to the south. The main army moves through the middle. Goblin has observers goddamn everywhere. He knows every angle of attack, and he knows where these units are coming from. Seeing the army out of position, he sends those zealots towards the fourth base. I don't know if we'll get it. Feedbacks are good, though. Not a single blinding cloud in sight. Big storms. Roaches just soak it up, though. I don't know how I feel about that. TLO perhaps feeling cocky, maybe distracted. He has to deal with this. He doesn't want to lose too many workers. But at the same time, he could just win the game with this push if he does this correctly. So he knocks down this fourth base once again, and Goblin is sent back to the slums. He can't afford this upscale housing any longer. And while this went on, the zealots, of course, as I mentioned, were up here. But looks like TLO pulled the drones away, realizing that this wasn't going so well for him. So doesn't lose that many. Only 4 drones die. A couple queens to go with it too, but the hatchery still stands. And if he just transfer the drones back, boom, he's back in the money. Whereas Goblin can't actually afford to build another nexus. He's going to have to long distance mine to get that money. The longer that takes to go up, the longer it's going to be to replace a lot of his army units. In fact, I hadn't even considered this because very rarely does gas expiring have an influence on a match like this. But gases are expiring in the main base. Gases are soon to be expiring in the natural. 42 gas remaining, 100 gas remaining. Goblin needs this fourth base now, not just for the minerals, but if he wants to continue warping in these very expensive units like High Templar, he needs gas income. Not to mention turn them into Archons and what have you. Well, +2 weapons is finally finished up for Goblin, so he's got a bit more kick, but I gotta tell you guys, everything that I'm seeing right now, unless TLO throws this game mega hard, if he gets too complacent and doesn't focus up on his economy, I mean, he's mining 38 drones on his base. There are ways TLO could throw this, but every other fiber of my being says TLO's got this game in the bag. Also, man, we gifted out those 10 subs earlier and I didn't have any time to acknowledge them properly, but now that we have a bit of pause in the action, I'm gonna just wrap God through this as quick as I can. Thank you, Gildlin, for gifting subs, and if you hear your name called out, make sure you thank Gildlin too. Baxter, is that you? Oh, Baxter, is that you? Tomfoolery. Cuddle Bear? This is a North American player, Cuddle Bear. Inch 2 Maniac, K Goof Troop, Keyed, okay. Copy _ Draken77, Mr. Zimbu, and Excalibur. Thank you guys for being here to receive those subs, and thank you once again, Gildlin, for gifting them out. 131 army supply. Unit counter is 51 roaches tall. And I say tall because I firmly believe you should be able to stack roaches up like a totem pole and use them to shoot air units, but that's never going to happen because Blizzard doesn't like good ideas. But there's also a lot of Templar. I think 7. Most of them are going to have high energy for the fight. Now, unfortunate for TLO, he had no knowledge they were there. That was wicked out of position. He checks for the 4th again, and he has to know, based off of his own pacing in this game, that if he's run out of money on these 3 bases, so has Goblin. So it's a little awkward as he doesn't see this base. He now has to figure out where the other one was taken. You can see all of his units though are heading to the top right because it's the only location left that would make any sense. The 3rd base is still a pretty big target. That's his current income. So knocking down the 3rd or the 4th would work. My big thing at this point though is I'm just gonna, Goblin's made a lot of good moves. I like his dancing, I like his play, but why Templar over Disruptors? Why Storms versus Roaches rather than big explodey balls to win the game? And my only assumption is because he wants Archons out of them once they're used, but I feel like if this was a game that had Roaches, it showed Zerglings, and maybe Hydras. No, it's just Roaches. So Storms, they're good. I don't think Storm is ever bad, but I don't think it'd be preferable over some other options right now. I mean, even the Colossus was a bit of a stretch. I think very few players will stick on pure Roaches for a long ZVZ. At this point, you know, Broodlords are coming out, or Ultras are being swapped into, although never should they be, but the point is, I don't think most people expect this to be a 25-minute game that is primarily Roaches. So for Goblin, I kind of understand a little bit. why Templar were the choice. But with the way things have gone, I think in retrospect, even he would agree that he wishes he had gone for something else. Man, though, this income graph is really one-sided. Hey, Davey for the win. Thank you for the Twitch Prime sub. Davey FT dub. This base still hasn't been taken, and things are still problematic for Goblin, but at least he's got this 4th base mining. This, I can't begin to describe how important this is. It is the difference of him being able to max out his army versus die at 150 supply. He still might die at 150 supply, but definitely at least gets to max out his army. Well, should be able to. It's weird because TLO's army, it doesn't have 3-3. It's not objectively a powerful army. It's just roaches are going to be so frustrating to deal with. At some point, too, I didn't quite catch this. I knew Burrow was in play. I didn't realize he got tunneling claws. So we may see some sneaky shit happen here, too. But Storms and Blinding Clouds working against TLO in this fight. Dives in really deep to the back line. I don't know how to feel about this, but he does knock down the Nexus. And that is without a doubt the most painful thing. 23 probes died with this. Goblin now has no money to work with. It's been a slow burn. But I think TLO has finally secured this game. For Goblin's sake, he doesn't even have enough probes to really long distance mine to get the money to build a Nexus. I mean, Goblin still has a standing army of 13 Stalkers, 5 Templar, 4 Sentries, 7 Immortals. It is objectively still a pretty robust army, especially considering a majority of TLOs are roaches. But it's just a numbers game at this point. He doesn't have the numbers to back this up. And TLO's actually going for a Greater Spire. I love this. He's going the 26-minute standard Greater Spire when your opponent has no income. That's just twisting the blade is what that is at that point. So a long, very hard-fought battle. Storms aplenty. Immortals will break this base. But TLO just has to play this cautiously to Broodlords, and he secures victory without a doubt in my mind. Treant wants me to stream some old school games. Nah, but I definitely want to get back to They Are Billions. I haven't had the freedom to play that in a couple of weeks, actually, but I've been thinking about that stupid spitter map. I want to beat that really badly. Now, this is kind of unfortunate. This is the Hive. Now, he's already started Greater Spire, and he doesn't need a Hive to build Broodlords, but what he is going to need a Hive for is more Vipers if he's thinking about it. So losing the tech there is actually a little scary for TLO. He's having this moment of like, oh my god, wait a minute. I thought I won. Have I not won? There's not many Blinding Clouds left, and frankly, this one might just get feedbacked into it, so he abducts instead. Abduct has an absurd range to it, so it's a good call. I think Abduct's actually probably the best choice he can make, one Immortal at a time, because Goblin's not rebuilding much, if any, of this army. In fact, the production tab is pretty bare for both sides, so we'll just go to the units tab for a little bit, guys. As this base gets knocked down, TLO does have another hatchery. It's a little misplaced, but it's on the way. If Goblin can actually claw victory out of this, this is going to be the sickest comeback of all time, because while TLO got to Greater Spire, he doesn't have the money to build Corruptors, but just Broodlords. He's building, I don't know, spawning pool up here? Ah, shit, dudes. Goblin may have turned this around. TLO could base trade this, maybe. Like, straight up base trade. Hatchery up here is going to get discovered. Cancels it immediately. He could burrow one of the drones, maybe try and sneak him around. I don't know. This is tough to call, but for sure, everyone's out of cash. This is the wildest mind out game, because this wasn't a base trade where everyone has no money left over. These are two players who have full bases, just went the distance. And while normally the map would be fully mined out at this stage of the game, only 3 bases have been mined out per player. There's still 4ths and 5ths and 6ths, etc. So, well, I thought maybe TLO would go for the base trade. He's withdrawing. He doesn't have the money to build a hatchery, so he has to long distance mine a little bit more. This is actually really terrifying for TLO, because his army, in terms of actual overall strength, sucks. He's got numbers on his side. He's got +2 armor, but Goblin has +3 weapons on Blink Stalkers. In fact, some of these Stalkers have been around for so long, like 10 kills on this guy. That's ridiculous. There's been no Zerglings to lose this game, really. It's just been Roach. Oh, I guess I take that back. There's been a lot of Zerglings to lose this game. But the focus has been Roaches. 255 Roaches was the point I was going to make. So the fact that these Stalkers live through the battles, like, you'll see a Stalker with like 30 kills on it, and they're all Zerglings, and who cares? If you get 10 kills with our roaches, that's impressive. Not to mention the immortal. 17 on this guy, 16. Ah, this is bad, dudes. If Goblin didn't have those immortals, this would look so much better for TLO. Yoinks, a stalker. Blinks away. Oh no. Grabs a Templar, that's a little bit better. But now that Viper's out of juice. Broodlings could help a little bit. I know this sounds a bit funny because Broodlings are pretty garbage units, but you know, stripping the armor away, having a little bit of extra cannon fodder, that could be the difference of TLO even being able to take this fight or not. But he has no other buildings out on the map. This is okay. Oh, this is sick. He wants Goblin to go to the main base. I think he very much so wants Goblin to get himself stuck up into the main base. I believe this is intentional and not like fear, right? So this force field, this choke, this looks great. Oh, TLO can't possibly get up here to fight, right? But Goblin also can no longer at any point really push down. Because if he does, corrosive biles meet him, and corrosive biles are way more deadly than force fields are in this instance. Oh, okay. This means TLO only needs to segment a small amount of units away to start chipping away the buildings. And while Goblin could recall, it is actually impossible for Goblin to recall all of these units. So if Goblin recalls part of his army, TLO will pounce on what's left, I believe. Are there any drones left? There's no drones, so he can't mine off of this base. He doesn't have enough money to build a drone either. This is it for TLO. This is everything he's going to have from here to the end of the game. Hallucinated Phoenix, so annoying. All right, TLO has identified there's a little bit of mining. He's picking off what he can. Goblin does have enough money to build something else. The Stalker's coming up a little bit forward. He grabs one. Look, this doesn't seem like much from the Viper, but neither player is really building anything. So anytime anyone loses even just one unit, that's it. That's the unit gone. It's not going to get replaced very easily. You know what needs to happen? What needs to happen is a Dark Shrine. He's not got the money for it, but like a DT would be sick. There's only one Overseer in play, and TLO can't build another. But the Stalkers... Oh, Goblin's a fucking genius. I didn't even realize what he did. I wish I had caught that on the replay. Someone remind me. We gotta go back. We gotta go back and show you. But basically, recall is a very small radius that you can recall with, right? And as you said, he wouldn't possibly be able to recall his whole army. But what he did was he stacked himself up in the corner, used force fields to push his units together so he could actually fit them all in the recall. He lost one immortal. Oh my god, that's so sick. TLO had this game on, like, there was a safety that he knew where all the units were and that none of them could push across the field. That safety is gone. He's also gobbled up what little health there is left on these other buildings. So this Viper has effectively helped kill the remaining buildings on the map. Oh my god. Goblin, I think Goblin wins. Look, I know the army supplies are really one-sided. TLO can't really push out. If he does, he runs the risk of something warping in and killing his last remaining building. If he leaves any units at home, his army's really, really weak. Oh my god. This is fucking wild, guys. I have no words for this kind of a base trade. No! Oh, no! Okay, I see what he was trying to do. Holy crap, TLO's a genius, but he almost got killed by his own hubris. So he knows that he can't hit this Warp Prism with the Corrosive Bile. He was going to try and time it out so the Corrosive Bile would land as the Abduct landed, thus killing the Warp Prism. And that would have been really cool if he had pulled it off. But what he ended up doing was almost killing his Viper. You know what? This actually is not a bad move. I really like the idea of Parasitic Bomb because that damage will not be repaired up over the course of the game. The problem is, though, it's going to take 2 to actually kill the Warp Prism, and he doesn't have enough energy for another. I don't know the Warp Prism's a big threat here. It's not exactly shuttling around High Templar, for example, but it is constantly with this Observer scouting. Goblin knows where every single unit is. In fact, I'm a little frustrated Goblin's not making use of his 440 minerals, but at some point, TLO snuck a single roach out. And these 4 probes that are mining probably gonna get plucked out soon, but oh, at this point Goblin might even just be able to dive the base. He doesn't know that TLO doesn't necessarily have a lot left, but TLO, he's got nothing left. Like, there's one extractor up here, that's it. 65 HP, mostly killed here by the Viper, slowly regenerating. I'm telling you guys, that move, I see you guys catching up in chat now. That move over here with the recall was one of the sickest plays I've seen of all 2020. Like, we've had really big Widowmine hits. Those are luck. We've had really cool storms where a lot of Marines died. That's cool, but that's not exactly... Like, that was the coolest move, in my opinion, of any game I've cast for 2020 so far. At this point, people are saying Goblin deserves the game, and I would be inclined to agree, but let's see him not throw it first, because TLO's going for broke. Force fields go down. He can just burrow through it. Not to mention break it with corrosive biles. The last couple probes also dying on the front line are funny to see, but I didn't consider this advantage for TLO. He can heal up pretty quickly while burrowed. Now look, Tunneling Claws lost its bonus regeneration many patches ago, but roaches still naturally heal faster while burrowed. So if he takes a bit of damage, he can just kind of heal off the scratches. Everything about this game screams, oh my god. Everything about this game is OMG. I can't even believe this is happening. TLO's whittling away. Now he runs back home, and I think rightfully so. He's very afraid that Goblin at some point is putting units out on the field. Blink Stalkers could walk around. Warp Prism could shuttle units over. He can never at any point safely fully leave this base alone. In fact, I love what he's doing right now with the remaining Overlords. I think he knows he's never going to build anything else for the rest of the game. So what the Overlords are best set to do is scout and see if any of those attacks are coming. Put an Overlord here, an Overlord here, an Overlord here, etc., etc. Just get that full vision to know if Goblin were to leave the base with anything. And let's say hypothetically Goblin left the base with a DT. Nothing TLO can do about it anyways. But there's no DTs. There's no from one behind Dark Shrine, nothing like that. Just a single Warp Prism going to bring some Zealots to try and kill this base with. Meanwhile, TLO does start tearing down everything else that's on the map. This one's Soccer. Hello. He's tearing down what he can, but I don't think he's got any power to break through the main base. And with the Warp Prism not here, well, I guess the Warp Prism being here or not doesn't really matter. The Observer's got detection. TLO cannot even burrow up the ramp. He doesn't have enough numbers to pull this off safely. If he really wanted to YOLO this, he could, but this is otherwise going to turn into a stalemate. So he's going to burrow. Not going to look good. He's going to commit to it. TLO's going to commit to it. Force fields, not good enough to stop the roaches. The storms. Oh, there's so much damage. TLO withdraws. He just lost about 30 army supply or something like that. Like, this is dipped really hardcore. That was too cocky of a move to pull off, but with what little money he has left, he starts putting cannons. I love it. I actually hate to say this may turn into a stalemate. We can't see the stalemate timer, only the players can, unless we're watching their vision. So let me explain this really quick, as I don't know if this will be the case or not. If no actions happen for long enough in the game, no units die, for example, or no minerals are mined, etc., a stalemate timer starts ticking down. And after about 2 minutes, if nobody does anything, the game ends in a draw. Now, Goblin's building units, and they're killing each other still. So that's not the case yet. But it could be, as nobody has any means to produce anything. Like, that's it for money. For TLO, I think at this point, his best bet is a draw. I hate to say it, but I believe TLO's best bet to win this, not even win this, to not lose this, would be forcing a draw. I don't know what Goblin could do otherwise, because Goblin's also very fearful to push out. I think what's terrifying for him is he has an accurate count of TLO's units. They are 1-to-1 in army supply, but not 1-to-1 in terms of units. And frankly, this is not an army that has a front line of Zealots or Archons. He's got a Warp Prism that's going to do some insano micro. Maybe this is how he does it. Yeah, GG. Oh my god, 38 minutes deep. Goblin takes the series 2-0. What a hell of a semifinals.